Good evening and welcome to the March 25th meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. Once again, and for the foreseeable future, we are holding this meeting virtually via Zoom video conference. Please be patient. This is a new format for us. We're doing our best to be efficient and allow everyone to participate equitably. Please keep your comments brief and on point. This meeting is being recorded and being broadcast by FCTV. The board recognizes the attendance of Commissioners Jamie, Maury, Russ, Courtney, Betsy, Peter, Steve. Did I leave anyone out? Kevin Newton is on board. Jen's on board, of course. For the record, the appointed alternate for this evening's meeting is Peter Walsh. To the commissioners for commenting, I'll call on each of you at the appropriate time so we can hopefully avoid speaking over each other. And I have to remind you that we'll be doing all votes by roll call. So when I call your name, please state your name, yay or nay. I'm going to keep the same order, so hopefully it'll make some sense. To our public participants, there will be an opportunity for public comment on each hearing. At the appropriate time, I will call for said comments. When you are selected, please state your name for the record and speak clearly. And I want to remind everyone, this is video, this is live, so, and it is being recorded. So watch what you say and what's on your camera. All right, first up is minutes, which we don't have any, correct?
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I missed that.
Okay.
No minutes.
Say that again?
Sorry about that.
Okay. First order of business, request for continuance under notice of intent. Timothy Leadham, trustee, R&G Realty Trust, 1209 East Falmouth Highway, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to raise RAZE all existing buildings and appurtenances, including bulkheads, piers, and boat ramps, and to construct a new commercial building together with a complete redevelopment of new piers, floats, bulkheads, piles, fuel dock, travel lift, parking lot, stormwater management system.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until April 22nd.
So moved. I'll second it. I think somebody else moved it.
Okay, who moved it?
I think I moved it, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
I moved it.
All right, and then I'll second.
All right. Again, roll call vote. Betsy.
Sorry, all. Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Mark's out. Maury.
Harlow Hawks, aye.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
Russ.
Robbins, aye.
And Steve.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I draw my attention to the fact that I'm in this meeting. Apparently, I'm not showing up on your display. This is Mark Gurney.
That is correct. You aren't showing, so I will acknowledge you. Mark Gurney is in the meeting. So Mark, did you hear the motion in the second?
I did, and I vote aye.
Vote. Thank you.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, this is Greg Barrett, Director of Technology for the Town of Falmouth. Mark is showing up. I just think it's if you're on a mobile device or depending on how that you have your laptop shown up, he may not be in the first 9 quadrants. But he is showing up on the desktop. On FCTV.
I just took the list from participants, so maybe he joined late. Maybe I missed him, but he's now acknowledged. Next up, a request for determination of applicability. Carolyn and Anatol Eberhard, 230 Sipawissett Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to upgrade to a Title V sewage disposal system. Ben?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Staff recommends a -2 under the bylaw and a -3 under the state. resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
So move.
Second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Again, roll call. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Mark,
Gurney, aye.
Maury,
Follow Hawks Eye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
and Steve.
Patton, aye.
All right. Next up, request for notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. First up is William J. and Ellen C. Wedge, 78 Associates Road, West Falmouth, Mass, for permission to renovate the existing house and repair the existing foundation, seeking after-the-fact approval for an installed stone rent station, parking area, and seasonal cedar walkway, relocate a spa and storage shed, remove an existing fire pit and picnic table, install mitigation plantings and restoration plantings, conduct hand removal of poison ivy and invasive bittersweet, and all associated excavation, grading, and landscaping.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to be promoting Mr. McGrath's team and the applicant to the panelist.
Okay. Mr. McGrath and or Tim, you are up.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just moving Mr. Wedge up, the applicant. I believe everybody's here.
Can you hear me? This is Michael McGrath.
Yes, Mike.
Yes, Mr. McGrath, welcome.
On my screen, it shows my exhibits. Do you have the exhibits on your screen?
Yes, Mike.
We have the
All right.
existing.
Yes, the first one is the existing conditions. My name is Mike McGrath. I'm a registered engineer and professional land surveyor. My firm, Holmes & McGrath, prepared the notice of intent and did the land surveying and civil engineering services. The first exhibit I got is labeled existing conditions. This is the existing house at 78 Associates Road. There's an existing dwelling. As far as the resource areas that the Conservation Commission are concerned with, this lot fronts on West Falmouth Harbor. So it's on the north side of Associates Road on Chappaquiddick Island. So the wetland resources are, first there's a beach that goes, well, basically from low water up to the edge of a dune. So it's a coastal beach. Then landward of that is a dune that goes all the way up to a lawn. It's an irregular line that I'm showing with my cursor. And then in between the lawn, in between the in between the dune and the house is lawn. So there is an existing shed that's located on the north side of the lot. I'm sorry, we should have put a north arrow, but so be it. So the next exhibit that I have is an exhibit that shows the activities that are going to occur on the lot. So I'm going to start describing them from the top down. There's an existing walkway that's made out of wood that basically goes from the lawn out to the dune. And it currently has been installed and it stays there. We're going to change it so it's installed in the summer and removed in the off season and stored on the upland. The other thing that there is there is an unauthorized clearing at about this location, and there's a picnic table there. So we're going to remove the picnic table that exists, and we're going to revegetate this with dune grass. What this plan also shows in dotted is that there's an as-built plan from a previous activity, and that is the outline of the path that existed at that time. Since it's actually filled in on this side. And like I said, there's a picnic table here. So we're going to remove it and vegetate it. Then on the other side of the lot, there's a fire pit that's been installed in some dunes vegetation that's been cleared. So we're going to remove and dispose of the fire pit and revegetate in this area. There's also a spa that's been, we're basically going to relocate the spa so that it's on top of existing lawn. Now, we're going to construct a work limit that's on this orange line that goes all the way around to here. And there's going to be revegetation in this area. There's going to be dune grass here and a buffer series of vegetation in this location. On the other side of the lot, the north side of the lot, there is an existing shed that's located in this position. We're going to rotate and move the shed, and then we're going to replant or revegetate this area that I'm showing with the cursor. We're also going to add 3 trees that are the heavy dots. The whole reason that we originally filed this was to repair the foundation. The foundation needs some work, and so what is going on is they excavate underneath posts and replace these posts. There are posts at the 4 corners here. Then there's a linear foundation here that they're going to repair by excavation and replacement. So we were also asked to talk about these, the bottom line is there's been some stone, basically tire tracks that are installed. They were installed without a permit. What was happening before was that there was ruts that were occurring over time, and they were sinking into the soils. So by putting these in, we not only have stopped the settlement, and then the when they settle, they would then turn into mud, and so we've stopped doing that. Plus now the cars have a very specific place to park. Before it was a little bit more random. So we believe that that's an improvement overall. I do have some photographs if you're interested in, just to remind you what this looks like. This is basically the south side of the house. That's the front of the house. This is an old house when it comes to it, and it's a beautiful house. So in any case, and that's the photographs of the house. This is the photograph showing the stone. There's a tree that's been left alone in between. There's the shed that we're going to relocate. It was all staked for your, for your use. And in any case, I believe that we have addressed all the issues that the commission's asked for. This is just a photograph showing the dune. It's a very grassy dune. And this is one that shows the edge of the dune. So I believe that this project addresses some issues, and I think in the long run, this is an approvable project. And I stand ready to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. McGrath. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we went out and reviewed the project. I believe Alyssa sent you the staff reports. We did look at the areas that are being proposed for mitigation, and they have been void of vegetation for a while. So the areas that are proposed to be mitigated are appropriate and were not vegetated prior. We did have one concern with the tree, that one of the trees proposed behind the shed we feel is a little too close to the other trees and won't survive or do well. So we'd like one of those to just kind of kick out a bit. And I think that's it. Mike, did you say anything about the spa? I'm sorry.
Yes, I said we were going to move the spot to the location shown right in this area that I'm showing with the cursor. So we are moving the spa. It's on top of existing lawn, so it's an appropriate thing to do.
Okay, thank you. And just one more question, Mike. When did the shed go in?
Oh, I don't know the year that the shed went in. I'm sorry, I don't know, but we can provide that. In any case, we'd be happy to move the tree. You want it moved more towards the harbor, West Falmouth Harbor in the dune?
Correct, yes.
All right. I forgot to mention that, and a butter did file by email a letter supporting this. It was a direct butter to the south. So anyways.
Yeah, staff did receive that email, Mike. Unfortunately, it came in really late, so I wasn't able to get it to the board, but we do have that. That's it for me, Mr. Chairman. Kevin, do you have anything to add?
No further comments, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Betsy, we're going to start with you. Comments?
Okay, thanks, Jamie. My only concern was I didn't quite see where the spa was going to move to. There wasn't much placed for it to move back. So, Mike, could you comment on that?
Sure. I'm going to. You're right. The spa is only a foot or two off the property line, and we're moving it north parallel with the structure. But it is on lawn, and there is now a little bit more space, and it's a confined site. But this is, revegetated areas that are going to create a buffer. So I think it's appropriately located.
Okay, thanks. That was my only question.
Okay. Courtney?
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay. Mark?
Here, I'd like to see where the spa is going to go. I can't really tell if that in your drawing, that's where the spa is going to go, or if that's where it's starting from.
I'm going back. The spa is only a foot or so off the lot line, and so what we're doing is we're we're moving it parallel with the house, and it's moving about 6 or 7 feet to the north.
Okay, so the answer is that drawing that you showed up before this one is where it's going to go. That's fine.
No, this plan, Exhibit 325, shows you the proposed work. The previous one shows the existing. So we're moving it. I don't know if you see my cursor, but we're moving from here, that direction, about 6 or 7 feet.
I can see it's quite clear. Thank you. And I guess the only thing is probably mark on your drawing where the tree is going to be moved to. Other than that, I think it looks great. I think you're doing a good remediation of this property.
Okay. Maury?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The mini excavator, I like that idea that it's gonna be something small and or by hand. Because there's not a lot of room back there. But I did have a couple concerns, that they haven't really spoken about the, picket fence and the stockade fence that are all new in a V zone. And I just want to know, I know they weren't there before when the septic was put in, that whether we all are okay with that much in a V zone or not. Usually we don't allow that. That's one issue. The second one was, the cedar trees that are being put in existing vegetation where the shed, a little bit, to the, I guess, behind where the old shed was. If they were maybe one could be put where the fire pit was, or somewhere, that's in the lawn instead of in the existing vegetation, because we usually don't remove vegetation to plant vegetation. But other than that, I thought the plan looked pretty good. And the other thing was, when just in the future, because we're all on a new learning curve here, when we get the pre-existing plan and the new one that Mike showed, I didn't have the existing one. I have I can see the little hash marks where the spa and the shed were, so it's fine. But, again, we're all on a new world here, that if we get those in our packet, and Mike's used to always giving them out at the plan, at the meeting, that it might be better to hand them out, with our packets from now on until the new normal goes away. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I jump in here, Mike? If you could, in the future, provide these types of exhibits to me prior to the hearing. I need to be able to physically get them to the commission. So that would be really helpful. Thank you.
I understand.
Okay, Peter?
No questions. It looks like a good project.
Good. Russ?
I have no questions. I have no problem with it.
All right. Steve?
Looks fine to me. Thank you.
Okay. Mike, on the, at the fire pit, there's also some large stones there. Are those being removed as well?
We will remove anything that would interfere with the vegetation. So since we have a mini excavator there, we can easily take out the stones. Majority of the fence here is in the landward side of the structure. And there is, basically there's what you call a rinse station for the public. That's a shower. And you've always allowed showers in outdoor showers. And it's kind of important for the use of this that they have the outdoor shower. So I would ask the commission to let the fences stay.
Okay, Jen, are we going to require mitigation for the shed and the rinse station?
The staff report was written based on the regulations, so it really is going to be up to the commission. When I originally met with the applicant's representative on this, I told them to do the best they could as far as mitigating for the extra structures that were on the property. So that will be a decision by the board.
This is Michael McGrath. I want to point out that, yes, there is flagstone in the floor of the shower, but obviously it drains. So while you consider it to be impervious, it really is at least partially pervious in that water does drain through it.
Okay. Any further comments from the board?
I just had one comment. Usually outdoor rinse stations are about 4 by 4. And if I'm not mistaken, this is quite a bit larger. Maybe Mike could tell us how big it actually is.
Uh, It will take me a few minutes because my full-scale plan's not here. Hold on.
Looks like it's 10 by 10.
Got to be close to that.
I'm scaling it off right now. And by 10.
Okay. Jen, how do we deal with public comment? Do you have that in the queue?
Well, I do believe the applicant has been moved up to a panelist, so they can participate as a panelist. So you can ask for public comment, and then if there's any additional comments, those can go to chat, I guess. I think that's what we discussed last week.
Yep. Okay, now's the opportunity. There's no more comments from the board. Are there any public comments? If there are not, I would call for a motion.
Jamie, may,
Close the hearing and take it under advisement?
may,
Second.
may I make a comment just before we vote?
Yes.
Well, actually, I've decided I'm not going to make the comment.
Okay.
Do we have a
So we have
second on that?
I'll
Yep.
second.
Yeah, Moore is seconded.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We're going to call for the vote to close the hearing, take it under advisement. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Mark,
Gurney, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
All right, the hearing is closed. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I need to have the IT director bring Mr. McGrath and William Wedge into the attendee list, Greg.
Will do. Thank you.
And if you wouldn't mind promoting our Commissioner Kevin O'Brien up, who joined us late and in the middle of that hearing, that would be great. Thank you.
Of course, could you give me those two names to move to attendees one more time, please?
William Wedge and Holmes and McGrath.
Commissioners, if I could, I would ask you if you would do your name for the motion in a second, because I'm trying to write this stuff down, so I'm not necessarily looking to see who called it out, so if you don't mind. Next up, James J. Mangravetti Jr., 101 Madeline Road, East Falmouth, Mass., for permission to demolish and remove an existing single-family dwelling and to construct a new single-family dwelling with decks, Title V sewage disposal system, install utilities, mitigation plantings, and all associated clearing, grading, and landscaping, and to replace the existing electric and water services to an existing pier.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have promoted Tom Bunker up as a panelist. I do believe he has, there are a few attendees with the name Mangravetti. Tom, do you know who might want to speak?
We have Jim Mangravetti and Nancy, and I think Jim was having trouble getting on. I don't know if Greg can look at that. He said he was a couple times was refused entry when he tried to log into the meeting.
Yes, sir. This is Greg Banworth from the IT department. I have been working with Mr. Mangravetti, and I think if his time is up right now, we'll be able to bring another device on. It is going to be the name ND Man, which is someone in his area that is using another device. So I'm going to promote that entity to a panelist, and it should be Mr. Mangravity.
Thank you, Greg.
Hey, Tom, you're up.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, for the record, my name is Tom Bunker with BSS Design. I'm a land surveyor with an office in Falmouth. And I would have to ask you, is my, oh, no, here, share screen. Okay, do you see the screen? My plan?
Yes, we do, Tom. Thank you.
Okay. This is a plan at 101 Madeline Road in East Falmouth that fronts on Eel Pond. As you can see on the left-hand side of the plan, there's a tidal water body. There's some fronting salt marsh along here and a bank, fairly steep bank, running up to about elevation 7 or so. And from there back to the house about 50 feet is a lawn area with a garden and patio. And actually within that 50 feet, fairly close, is a paved driveway that runs from Madeline Road all the way down the hill to fairly close to the top of the coastal bank. There's a 20 feet or so to the top of the bank. There's also a pier. If you went out there, there's been some work being done on it. There's previously permitted work under an earlier DEP file number. I've highlighted the Zone A lines of the coastal bank. Is the first one 50 feet out. And then there's 75 feet land under water body Zone A, and out landward of the house is the Zone A 100 feet from the salt marsh. And then further out inland from that, the furthest reach is the Zone B of the coastal bank, and that reaches almost to the road, as you can see. And the flood zone is this heavy dash line around here, crossing Madeline Road. So you can see almost all of the lot is in the flood zone. Almost all the lot is within the Zone B of the coastal bank. You see on here, I show the limit of work. This type of line here, and it does run down, encompassing the paved driveway, and then down to the pier, and then back up again. Everything in here, the house, the shed, even outside the limit of work, this patio is to be removed. And the septic system, there are 4 trees to be removed. One behind the shed up by the north lot line. I was just out there today and realized it's dead. It's a pitch pine. Had some type of borer in it. There's a lot of sap running down, and that's rather dead. There's another pitch pine here. And then in the front yard, a pitch pine with a large wound on it, and a Norway maple will all be removed for this project. The proposal is to take that house down, as I explained, and put up a new house, which there's the Zone A of the coastal bank. And I had drawn in here what I called the C line. The A line is the Zone A, and the B line is the Zone A. And but the C line, which is a sort of compilation of the A line, and then how close the house is from the resource areas. And so this C line is what I figured was the closest that any part of the structure could be to the resource area. And so I did not take the shed into account on that line there. And so here, actually, all of the house and the deck except a tiny bit of this deck right here is actually outside of the zone A of the coastal bank. This deck is not closer than the part of the existing house is. And there, the house is a bit larger. I should point out that the overall on the lot, the total coverage by structures and paving, by impervious surfaces, is being decreased by a small amount. But because some of that decrease, being the some driveway outside of the zone B, it's not counted. So it turns out there is an increase in coverage of 111 square feet in zone A, and an increase of there's no increase in zone B. And that's partly because there's so much of this existing paved driveway that's along here. There's no increase in zone B and 111 square feet of increase in zone A. There are 333 square feet of mitigation to put in. And on the plan that we filed, we had this, that mitigation was broken into 3 areas. One being down in the southwest corner, at the top of the coastal bank, we called it Area A. Then at the north line, we had an area, mitigation area B and mitigation area C. And I spoke with the commission, or the staff, about combining them. I will get to that in a bit, but we do have this 333 square feet of mitigation. As mentioned, this entire driveway, this pavement, which was down to within 20 feet or so of the coastal bank, has been removed, and this will be revegetated with the drought-tolerant grasses, and will be trenched and quickly backfilled to run electricity and water partly down where the pavement is now, and partly along what's lawn, going out to the pier, replacing the old services that were there now. You have the air conditioning and generators up near the front of the house, up in the zone B. The septic system between the house and the road, and the tank. There's a little bit of retaining wall to keep the front yard higher, and there was a little misunderstanding probably in my wording and what I said about the front yard is being filled, except it's not, what I meant was it's not being filled all the way out to the road, because so that the stormwater runoff would not go toward the road, but rather there's a low area so the water could run toward the road, but then get caught in a little valley and not run onto the road. It would continue, basically stay on the sandy, the grass area in here. It can go down this gentle slope down here. All of the roof runoff will be contained in dry wells. Have the this roof drain line from the front. The dry wells have to be in the back because they have to be 25 feet minimum from the septic system. So we have them put down here. Soil is quite sandy, so the dry wells will be quite effective. I can show you a couple of pictures. Just to go through a couple, have the that's the front of that. These pictures were taken a while ago. It's just to show historically it's been like this is the garden that they have now, and you can see that it's not a lush green lawn that they tend in the summer, but there is irrigation in the garden. And in your staff report, there was comment about this arbor that's here, and that is, I didn't feel at the time it was important to put on the plan because it's not being moved. And then you see some stepping stones near the arbor in that location that goes around the garden, some stones there. And the patio, which is being removed. And this is the arbor. You can see it as it is now, and the stepping stones. And I will put this up as a suggestion for how we can change the mitigation planting. So this is the area that was originally called A. No, this would be up in the northwest corner. And previously, some mitigation planting went further back inland. And so what we will offer to do now is bring that all closer to the bank. If I can get back to the photos. So this mitigation plan, we hadn't proposed it here before. We see this lawn area and the stepping stones. In this area, you can see the daylilies are starting to come up. This will all be mitigation planting, the lawn area in behind the arbor and up through here. This will be maintained as a garden, and so they can walk around or step through the garden. But this area up to this wood edge will be mitigation planting, and so it would not looking like this where these green dots are. We don't have it shown as mitigation right in this blank area because there are a couple honeysuckle bushes there, and so it wouldn't count as mitigation putting it in there. But this area right here shown with the green is the required mitigation, a couple square feet more. And I think this is what I discussed with Jen, asked if it could all be put together in one area, which we've done. Actually, while I've noticed, when I was out there, I noticed that there was some mitigation planting on the other lot, just inland from the shed. And so this would, be close to that mitigation also, form a larger contiguous area of mitigation planting of native shrubs. And so I've done it to go around the trellis, just so they can keep the trellis, but then this planting will go in this way. There are a couple other things, comments on the staff report. Yes, the cedar trees, we can move them a few feet away from the edge of the property line in there. They were right, there are a couple oak trees here where the branches would be above the cedar trees, so we can pull them away from the property line. I didn't understand one comment at the very top. The first comment, staff recommends plantings to further stabilize the bank instead of the attempt at bank stabilization with railroad ties. And there are some wood ties along the top of the bank, but that was kind of an attempt to keep the English ivy and some of the other plants from growing further landward. Trying to keep that down on the bank and not coming up into the garden. But it wasn't an attempt at bank stabilization. That is what they're proposing, what we've drawn, and I'll take questions and comments.
Thank you, Tom. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Tom, that first comment, if you look at where you have TCB4 and TCB3 near the dock,
Yes.
the railroad, oh wait, maybe the railroad ties are over by the garden area. Because it looked like one part of that bank, there was like no vegetation right to the top of that bank. So instead of maybe relocating all the mitigation to that back corner, possibly putting some vegetation along that bank to stabilize it and try to fight off the poison ivy. It looks like it's lawn right to the top of that bank, and the mitigation regulations are to enhance the resource areas, not smush all of the for lack of a better term, all of the mitigation into these corners of the lot. We've been seeing this a lot more lately. Not not impressed with the fragmented areas of mitigation, and it's just so that it's not along the top of that bank. And I just feel that the mitigation would be better off where you almost have like TCB4 through TCB3. That I put more thought into it. I think that's all we had. Move the cedars off the lot line, and mitigation plantings are to enhance the resource area buffer values, not to just place them anywhere on the lot where they're out of the way. So the board can consider those comments. There were a number of stone pavers around the garden. So I don't think those were ever mitigated for, and as silly as it sounds that we count stone pavers when applicants would like to use them for mitigation credit, it's not an issue. But when they are on a site and just appear without proper mitigation, then I don't know, take that.
But, yeah, so maybe they can speak to how long those pavers have
Okay,
been there.
that's fine. And I think that was it on my end. Kevin, did you have any additional comments on this one?
Yes, Tom, I just had a question on the pervious paver walk, what that would consist of.
Which walk?
Over near the septic.
Oh, that.
Yep.
Well, I guess we hadn't, it would be whatever would, I mean, there's several pervious pavers and I mean, some just have are formed with a gap between them to allow the water to flow through, but there are some that are termed pervious. And we can make that decision subject to your approval, but I was considering it be the pervious type of paver that would have the gap formed between them that would flow down into the sand, the drainable material beneath it.
Okay, thank you, Tom. I just wanted to bring that up for the board to consider.
And you're not proposing to mitigate for that pervious paver area, are you, Tom?
No.
That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Comments, Betsy? Betsy, you there?
Yeah, sorry, Jamie. The space bar didn't work.
Okay.
Mitigation was the major thing that I'm concerned with, and I would like to see it as a clump further out, protecting the coastal bank, the edge of the coastal bank. But I'm also a little concerned. I think it was specifically mentioned that nothing is going to be done about the English ivy, or presumably about the
Bittersweet?
well, the thing is, any of these places you put mitigation, honeysuckle that you just mentioned,
Yeah.
any of these places you put mitigation, it's just going to be overgrown by these invasives unless there isn't, an aggressive way to address them before you put your mitigation plants in. Otherwise, they're just gonna get overgrown. You know that, Tom.
Mhm.
So I guess I'd like to see you kind of rethink with the homeowners where this mitigation might go and to try to protect it from being destroyed, you know, within a year or two by invasives.
Yeah, well, they know that it'll be a lot of maintenance to keep the invasives back from it. They've been fighting this stuff for 30 years or however long they've owned it. And they know it's a battle. And it's a battle they know they're in, and they're going to keep at that battle.
Well, okay, I won't comment on that. But also, if you were to move the mitigation from that, whatever direction that is, top left corner, your cedar trees could move further, northeast also. Your cedar trees could be moved closer to the resources. That's all.
Yes.
Those are
Thank
my only comments.
Okay. Courtney?
Yeah, I have to agree with Betsy. I think this is a good time to tackle some of the invasives, the English ivy, and to rethink where that mitigation is going to go. The other question I have for you, Tom, is do you think that just 2 dry wells is going to be adequate to handle all the roof runoff?
I think it will. It always depends on what size storm, you're looking for, or you're trying to protect against.
What are those, just 2-foot dry walls with 2 feet of stone all the way around?
Yeah, the 2.5 feet diameter and 2.5 feet deep, with 2 feet of stone. In sandy soil, it'd take quite a bit. I can take a second look at that and make it.
Probably doesn't hurt to make them a little bigger, that's all.
Yeah.
I have no other questions.
Thank you. Kevin? Kevin O'Brien?
Kevin, use your space bar to unmute yourself if you're there.
Is that better?
There you are.
Yes. Do you have video, Kevin?
You want to see me?
It would be nice.
Yes, we do, Kevin.
Oh. Okay.
There you are.
There you are.
Oh, isn't that scary? No, I'm fine. I would fall into the category, you can fight the good fight, but the ivy, forget it. But good luck to you. I think it's a good project.
Thank you. Mark?
Mark, hit your space bar.
Yeah. Space car doesn't, something else does. I have no further comments. I like rearranging the mitigation to put it more closely together and maybe move the trees down a bit. That's all. Otherwise, I think it's fine.
Thank you. Maury?
I think we lost Maury.
I think you did too.
Okay, I'm gonna go on. We'll come back to Maury if she reappears. Peter?
I agree with Mark. No further questions.
Thank you. Russ? Mr. Robbins?
Oh, sorry about that. I'm good.
Okay. Steve?
I was just curious about the driveway. I'm unclear where the parking area is and the drive. It comes into that garage there, but is it the full width there?
Yes, it's the full width. It's two cars wide, plus another little area up here. Almost 3 cars wide. And then it's up, or it's grass around the generator and all, but it's basically, pervious gravel surface up here.
Okay. It wasn't clear to me. Thank you. That's the only question I had.
Thank you.
Attempting to move Maury back up as a panelist. She had some technical difficulties.
Is she coming back? Okay.
You should be able to see her in a split.
I think I'm back, Jen.
We just can't see you, Maury.
Okay.
There you are.
There you are.
I'm back. I just had a couple of questions. When you were talking about moving the cedar trees further from the property line, then we're bringing them almost 10 feet, if that, to the house. And we usually don't allow mitigation or anything within 10 feet. And I have to agree with Betsy. I think the trees need to go down toward the coastal bank, and all the mitigation needs to go down there. And I have a question for Tom. It says 333 in the A zone and 333 in the B zone. I just want to make sure I only see on the plan, the 330 square feet in the A zone, which are the three little pockets of 100 each. So I just want to make sure we're getting 666.
No, you're getting 333. Talking about by zone, in zone A, there's 111 square feet of increase. There's 333 square feet of planting.
So I have on my plan 133 square feet, 100 square feet, and 100 square feet, which comes up to 333.
Right.
Total. And then you also have to, it says on the plan that you're mitigating for 333 in the B zone.
Where do you see that?
On his mitigation calculations on the top of the plan.
Yeah.
Says mitigation provided 333 square feet.
That says 0 for the B zone.
Yeah, first it has the calculation for the A zone, which says 111 square feet times 3 is 333. Then they list the impervious area in the zone B, which is the 0 increase. So it's a total of 333.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. But again, I think that it needs to not be shoved to the edges. It needs to be brought toward the coastal bank where it'll be more effective. And if the garden has to be moved further up, maybe that can happen. I think otherwise the plan's, very well done, except for the mitigation.
Thank you. Tom, where's the dogwood going?
It's up in the front yard by the, it's in zone B.
Oh.
It's up by the septic tank. That's where one of the trees came from.
That's why I didn't see it.
There's a Norway maple came out from there, and dogwood go in.
Okay, any further comments from the commissioners?
The only other question I did have, Jamie, the edge of the grass on Tom's plan, is a little teeny like hairlines. Am I correct?
It's, yes. This line, that's the existing edge of grass here. Is that what you're
My
asking?
question is, what's behind it?
And in which location?
Where there's nothing shown. Pretty much up where to the, it would be the north of the garden.
Well, up in here, there's, well, like you said, right in this area, north of the garden, this is where I said there's some honeysuckle right here, and there really is. It's kind of an, I wouldn't call it a lawn. It wasn't located as lawn, but it's a grassy area through here and down on the bank. It's kind of this is kind of a bare area where I showed mitigation area B. It's just kind of a bare area of bank, just kind of shaded by honeysuckle or whatever. There's basically not much. There might be one or two small honeysuckles in there or something, but basically nothing down in that corner.
Thank you.
Okay, Jen, do we have any public comments? I didn't see anything in chat.
There's nothing in chat. I do believe the applicant has been moved up as a panelist if he wanted to make a comment. If not,
Mr. Mangravetti, would you like to comment? You don't have to. All right. Jen, are we gonna need a new plan for the mitigation?
Oh, sorry, this is Mr. Mangravitti. No comment.
Okay,
Sorry, putting on mute, guys.
thank you.
thank you, sir. Tom, we're gonna need a revised plan for your mitigation. You probably want to have to consult your client. Our next available hearing, because we had to move all of the hearings from last week forward, would be April 22nd.
Give me a moment to consult.
Through text, absolutely.
Yeah.
So just to make it clear, we're gonna move the mitigation closer to the coastal bank along with the cedars because they really can't be moved closer to the house.
I think that's what the discussion was, Maury.
Are we waiting, Tom?
Yeah. One
May I-
second. Yeah. Yeah, I guess April 2nd, I wish, April 22nd. Yes, I'll request a continuance.
If I could put you earlier, I would, but
No, I know.
weeks are going to be very long in this format.
Right.
So at the request of the applicant, I move till April 22nd, and this is
Second.
Betsy Gladfelder.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue until April 22nd. I'll call for the vote. Betsy?
Before you take the vote, I just want to remind Tom to somehow delineate the mitigation from the lawn, like a single split rail fence.
Okay.
And then should I vote, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please.
Gladfelder, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin? Kevin O'Brien,
O'Brien, aye.
Mark,
Gurney, aye.
Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
Unanimous. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
Tom.
Tom.
All right, thank you. Good night.
Greg,
Next.
could you please make Tom and Mr. Mangravetti move them back to attendees, please? And Mr. Mike Borselli up to panelists. Thank you.
Next up, Michael and Carla Follick, 12 Uncatina North, West Falmouth, Mass, for permission to reconstruct a licensed timber dock and piles and repair an existing concrete walkway on top of an existing licensed groin. Mr. Borselli, I understand this is you.
He's being moved up as a panelist now.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, I think I have unmuted myself and now you can see me.
Yes. Hi, Mike.
Hello. Now I have to see if I can share my rendering with you.
Aren't we all glad we did this practice?
Can you see my rendering now?
No. You're coming up. There you are.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'm going to test by zooming in on it. Is it moving around?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. So for the record, my name is Michael Borselli from Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant, Michael and Carla Follick. They own the property at 12 Uncatina North. The property has frontage on Buzzards Bay. Adjacent to Buzzards Bay is a coastal beach. Buzzards Bay, of course, is land under the ocean. Moving landward from the coastal beach, there's a coastal bank that consists of a stone revetment that also then transitions to a non-revetment area up above the flood hazard boundary. The flood hazard boundary is shown as a blue line. It is a VE20 on one side and an X on the upland or landward side. So in this case, the top of the coastal bank is the point above the flood boundary where the slope becomes less than 4:1. So it's this rust-colored line that I'm showing with my cursor. The project before you is requesting permission to reconstruct the previously existing timber platform and pilings that supported the timber platform that up until mid-October existed on this side of the stone groin. In October, I will try to get a photo up. In October, can you see that photo? In October, there was a storm, and you can see it crashing on the left side of the groin, and the walkway and pilings are shown in existence. Unfortunately, they did not remain. This is a photo post-storm. Prior to that storm, the structure had existed for decades, as long as Mr. Follick owned the property. The fasteners that connected it to the groin and the timber pilings had become deteriorated, so they lost their strength. It had not been maintained perhaps as it could have, and it got washed up on the coastal beach in this area. So this is a completely licensed stone groin and platform and pilings, license number 5814 that were provided in the application. The plan is to reinstall the pilings and rebuild in kind the platform as it had previously existed. Ben Carson of William Schultz and Company is the contractor for that work. The only work that cannot be done on the reconstruction of the platform from the upland, the only work that must be done by barge is to install the pilings. The second activity we're requesting permission to perform is relative to the concrete cap on top of the stone groin. I will show you that in a photo. That concrete cap is, you can see it, the resolution isn't very good, but you can see as it exists on top of the stone groin, it's crumbling and broken and is in a unsafe condition for walking. And the applicant is hopeful that he can also repair and or replace that as necessary by recapping it with newer concrete installed with the new technologies, the right type of concrete mix that is resistant to some of the salt water problems that can occur with concrete. The idea would be to run a small form along the perimeter, fasten the form, and then line the form with filter cloth and welded wire, and then also drill into the rocks and inside half-inch reinforcing rod, and then install a very low slump concrete mix and smooth out the walkway in sections. This work also would be done by William Schultz and Company. We've also proposed as a mitigation means in the event there was a concern about concrete into the surrounding water, that a floating boom would be installed around the perimeter of the stone groin, and that the work associated with that would be done at times of low winds and calm seas, which would be the only time the contractor would really want to do that work, so that the boom could be maintained in the position. And that work would be done in manageable sections. And if it needed to stop on a given day and an expansion joint be installed, then that would occur as the work progressed. So in summary, we're basically trying to maintain the licensed stone groin surface and reconstruct the licensed wooden platform that was supported by timber pilings in the same configuration as it was previously existing and as it was existing in accordance with the Chapter 91 license. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mike. Jen and or Kevin?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I don't have any questions. My only comment was it was very helpful for your client to take those pictures during the storm so we could see what it was like. So that was helpful. And anything from you, Kevin?
No, I don't have any comments on this one.
Thank you. Okay, I'll be looking for comments. Betsy?
Thanks. I have no comments except to say going down that walkway to the to the stone pier reminded me of walking along the Cornwall coast.
On this area.
Yeah, it was fun.
Courtney?
Yeah, you are pulling out the old concrete on that cap, or are you just gonna go over it?
We're gonna pull out all the loose sections, and if there's any section that is still stable and solid, that would remain. And the sections that I remove would be have to be hand carried, or we may temporarily stage the barge since it's easier to move the pieces horizontally instead of vertically up the hill, we'd like to reserve the right to be able to do that.
Okay, and what are you gonna use for fasteners? You gonna try to use stainless?
On
You
the timber,
Yeah,
yeah, if that's a recommendation, we would either use stainless or galvanized steel, hot dip galvanized steel.
yeah, I just think in that environment, given that you don't wanna have to come back and do this in a few years. Probably stainless if you can afford it.
Mm-hmm.
No other questions.
Thank you. Kevin,
Having your space bar.
Do you know if there's any work on the sides out at the end of the pier? In other words, concrete work. If you look at the photographs, actually, if you could see it, because the wooden part is completely gone. But if you look, yeah, see there out at the end, you're almost on it there, right in there. Do you need any concrete work there, do you think?
No, actually, we're going to do the form right on this edge on the top surface
Yeah,
and run it around along this edge. So since this is with the new decking, timber decking will be installed, it's gonna be installed flush against that. There's no plan to do any concrete work on this.
on the side,
Yeah.
okay. That's all, thank you.
Mark,
Renee, no comments.
okay, Maury,
Just two. One is, I can only see three pilings, but I'm sure on the Chapter 91 license, there were four. So I just want to make sure that end one I can't see in the photograph. Maybe it was already taken, a hit. I don't know, but I just make sure that the old Chapter 91 matches that one that's right. Yep, that one.
Yeah.
And
I don't have that in front of me, but that I showed these as they had existed from the Chapter 91 plan.
right, and
I can-
that's
I
what's
can-
kind of interesting because that would pier in the photo, I think the one during storm,
Mhm.
not the after storm, the during storm. The configuration just looks a little different than what, but I mean, it's hard to tell in the picture, but just as long as there were four pilings in the permit, that four go back, and if not, then the three that we see in the picture, if there was only three permitted. The other thing that I was curious about is I noticed on your plan you didn't put any eelgrass, and I think there's eelgrass. It's not just land under the ocean. There's eelgrass out there. So I just think that should be on the plan, and that would bring me to the time of year restriction and how you would protect that boom. I'm sure you're going to try and get this done as quick as possible, but if bad weather does come, that obviously the storms ripped an entire four pilings and a dock out, that boom will just be somewhere and it won't be there. And I'd love to know what happened to all that debris.
Well, I'll comment on the boom first. The boom, there's notes on the plan and in the narrative, and Ben Carson's a fairly seasoned contractor, and it would not be in his best interest to attempt to do the work without the proper weather conditions. So the floating boom and the work on the groin that is necessary that would require the boom as mitigation will only be done with a forecast that calls for low winds and calm seas, not for, one day. He's going to have to try to plan around the weather for that or put that activity off. Same with the pile driving, because if the seas aren't calm with the barge, it would be a little more complicated to do it. So that is the way that the application is proposed to you. The debris that was lost from the groin actually blew up. It was a storm that came across. You can see from the waves in this photo, it blew the direction that I'm moving the cursor. So that moved the debris over here, and that is going to be removed at the same time. It's right on. These two neighbors are friendly and they've been talking, and Mr. Follick has assured the neighbor that when the contractor is here, he's going to remove that debris.
That would be great. I was hoping you were going to say that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Peter,
Oh, Mike, I have a question regarding the last time the wooden construction was maintained or replaced, and the type of fasteners that they used, whether it's 5 years or 20 years or whatever. That's my question.
Well, I can't give you a specific date, but I can assure you, other than just cosmetic maintenance, there hasn't been any significant maintenance on this dock for in excess of 10. I would venture to guess 15 years or more. So I suspect that the fasteners corroded and lost their strength. So the comment that Mr. Bird made about stainless steel is a good one, and I'm certainly going to recommend it to the client, and I think he's certainly willing to invest in the stainless steel fasteners.
Okay, no further questions.
thank you. Russ,
I'm good with the project.
excellent. Steve?
Looking forward to seeing it done. No questions.
Thank you. All right. Any further comments from the board? Are there any comments from the public? I didn't see anything in chat.
Make a
So
mo-
I'll-
make a motion to close and take it under advisement.
Second,
Okay, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing and take it under advisement. Call for the vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
Aye.
Mark,
Ernie, aye.
Maury?
I just want to make one comment. Is he going to put eelgrass on the plan and Harlow Hawk's Eye?
I can comment on that, Mr. Chairman. I didn't want to interrupt. I'm happy to make note that there's eelgrass beds in and around this area. I'm assuming you know that by observation, Commissioner Harlow Hawks? I didn't witness that myself.
Yes, and actually the seawall right past there we had it on that plan.
Okay. I'm happy to add a notation. I don't know if you're able to do that, if you've been advised by council, you can't close a hearing with submission of a revised plan. I guess that would, if that's the case, I'd be required to continue the hearing. If you think it's minor, I can get the plan over. I can email the plan tomorrow and I can hand deliver them tomorrow. But I know you're closing the hearing right now. So I will defer to you on that.
I would just make sure that we'll put it in the findings. How's that? That if eelgrass is encountered to deal with it appropriately.
That would be great.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not really adding anything to the project, so I think if you could take a look, Mike, but yeah, we'll add it to the findings.
Yes. Happy to investigate that.
Thank you. Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
Okay, it is unanimous. We've closed the hearing. Jen, are you okay with making the note in the findings about the eelgrass?
Sorry, now my space bar didn't work. You won't be able to map it this time of year anyway, so I'm fine with making a finding.
Thank you. Okay, so we have closed the hearing for 12 Uncantino. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. I appreciate you still proceeding with business and trying to be as normal as we all can be. And I hope you all stay healthy.
You as well, Mike. Thank you.
You too, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
We're trying.
We're doing well. We're getting the voting down good.
Greg, could you please move Mr. Borselli back to an attendee? Thank you.
Okay, next up are continued requests for a notice of intent. First up is Delcor Realty Trust, care of Joanna Delapa, 418 Minot Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to replace and extend the existing pier. Jen.
Spacebar again, sorry. Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant did request a continuance late today because of the revised plan that came in today. So they are acceptable to a continuance until April 22nd.
And the revised plan is for the clarifications we were looking for, correct?
They were, but staff did not have time to review the plan to make sure anything else was changed or anything like that. Not saying it was, but we do like to just clarify, and we just didn't have time to do that. And
Fair enough.
we're at the mercy of their surveyor, so.
So I move to continue to April 22nd.
Second.
Who second? Courtney?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second to continue until April 22nd. Jen, is there anything we can do so that there are no more continuances and no more last minute plans? All right, got it.
I'll try.
I mean, this is like the 10th or 11th continuance.
I understand that, Mr. Chairman. I did express my frustration of having that plan come in at the late hour. I was contacted by the applicant's attorney and conferenced into a conference call with their consultant. I did question the lateness of the plan, explained that I had already heard from some of you regarding, is this for tonight? And told them basically the ball was in their court of whether or not they would want it to continue. So I do think they're trying. And hopefully we can get this wrapped up on the 22nd.
I hope so. Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue this to 4/22. I'm going to call for the vote. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Mark?
Ernie, aye.
Maury?
Arlo Hawks, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Russ?
Robbins, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
All right, it is unanimous. Continued to 4/22. Next up, John Mullen, 410 Surf Drive, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to raise RAZE existing pilings and horizontal structural members and construct a cabana with associated utilities and to install a sewage tight tank.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is withdrawing this project without prejudice. They are pursuing their zoning questions and issues, and they do feel that's going to take some time and do not want to keep continuing their hearing. So at this point, they are withdrawing.
Bless them.
Presidents.
Do we need to vote on this?
No, they withdrew it. That's fine.
Okay. Next up is Timothy Leadham, and that was continued until 4/22.
Correct.
So that was already voted. Jen, do you have any other business?
No, I just want to thank all of you for working with us in this format. And you guys are doing a great job, so thank you.
Yes, I concur. I think it's going very well, all things considered. We're getting bogged down with the voting, but not a lot we can do about that. But thank you all for your patience. Thank you to the engineers.
For next week's hearing, we are going to, thank you, Greg. You know, make sure you have staff reports that our comments are clear. We do have a pretty full agenda next week. It is going to take a long time in this format to go through it. So I would just try to, you know, collect your thoughts, collect your questions, and if the question has already been asked, don't repeat it.
Okay.
Did I miss something? Did we do 1209 East Falmouth Highway?
That was continued. That was the first continuance we had at the beginning of the agenda.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, Jamie.
Not at all. That was continued to 422 as well.
That continuance came in yesterday, Betsy. They're still working with DMF and getting their salt marsh restoration prepared.
Okay, thank you. May I ask one other question? I know we had a bunch that we didn't do last week, and they got continued, some till the 1st and some to the 8th. Could you just give us a list? Not, you don't have to verbally do it. Just give us a list so that we know who to go out to visit.
We can send that list out to you tomorrow.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks.
And Jen, are we contemplating a meeting on the 15th where we weren't prior? Should we consider a meeting on the 15th?
We could. Town meeting was originally scheduled for the 15th. If you, I mean, we have 7 new notices, excuse me, 6 new notices that you have not seen before next week. 2 of them are a roadway project. They're fairly easy. But if you wanted kind of that April 15th buffer, we could continue some of those if we had to the 15th for a buffer. It's up to you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. Okay.
Why don't we just hold it and wait and see whether we need it? Because if we don't need it, we don't need it.
Correct. I just want to throw it out there and ask.
I mean, would
All right.
everybody be willing to hold a hearing on the 15th if needed in this format?
Yes.
Who would not want to see all your faces Wednesday night?
Oh,
Watching the screen, it reminds me of a comedy show from the 1970s. Laughing.
I wouldn't know. All right, last motion.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Mark,
Gurney, aye.
Maury,
Arlo Hawks, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
and Steve.
Aye.
Hence the gavel. We are adjourned. Thank you.